This is a pile of routers, and my aim today is to chuck these probably about 10 meters away and test them on a laptop and on an iPad Pro and also my mobile phone, and see what speeds I get out of each of them. So we've got a Zyxel, however they want to be pronounced. One day I might ring their helpline and see how they answer it. This is a VMG. Focus. Come on. VMG8825-B50B. Then a Genexus. Focus. Come on. A Genexus DRG7820, which is an FTTP router. The Zyxel does VDSL, Ethernet, and also has a port on the back for a fibre module as well. Then we've got a cheap and cheerful TP-Link router, AC1200, otherwise known as Archer C50. And finally, what people seem to be raving about at the moment, and I bought this for I think about 12, maybe £16 on eBay, a second-hand Vodafone Wi-Fi hub. So I'll get my test set up and see what the results are. I shall also test it on my UniFi AP Pro. So because sadly I do not yet have a 1 gigabit per second internet connection, I'm just going to be testing over the LAN to a server on my LAN. And this is a machine that is cabled in on the gigabit network and should receive a gigabit speed test. There we go, that is over the network, and I will connect to Wi-Fi and see what happens. So here is my laptop, which is a fairly old Asus laptop with a Core i7 processor in it. The wireless card which is in this laptop is a Realtek 8821-AE wireless card, so it's not going to be particularly fantastic. Connected to my UniFi AP Pro. It's only about 1.5 meters away, so it's not really a great comparison to the access point I'm testing that's about 10 meters away, but let's see what we get. So about 116 megabit down and 120 megabit up, and the next test will be the iPad Pro on the same UniFi access point. Here we go on the iPad Pro, again on the UniFi AP Pro. And that's managed to achieve 156 down and 176 upload. Just run it a couple more times to check that that is the best we're going to get. Yep, similar kind of thing. And here we have the result from my Lenovo P2 mobile phone connected to the UniFi access point. That's getting 96.6 megabit down and 115 up. So I will go turn on the Zyxel router and connect these devices to it and see what speed we get on that. Okay, back onto the Asus laptop on the Zyxel router, and let's see what speed we get with that. So a similar download speed of 112 megabits a second, but only 47 megabit upload. Let's give it another go to see whether that changes over a couple of tests. Yep, so slightly below the speed test result to the Unify AP Pro, but there is the extra distance involved which may be affecting it. Okay, so we're on the iPad Pro again, and going on to the Zyxel Router, and we'll do a speed test on that. That's much improved. That's incredible. 409 megabits per second on the download, and nearing 200, so 173 megabits a second on the upload on the VMG Zyxel Router. Slightly lower result on the second test. And then back up to the high result on the third test. So that's incredible, really. It's a high-end iPad, so the iPad Pro, very modern, so the 2020 version, but it just does show the kind of difference in performance just between devices. So you've got this device here doing nearly 500 megabits a second over Wi-Fi versus the laptop with a Realtek Wi-Fi card, which can barely manage 120 megabits per second. And continuing with device compatibility and speeds, the Lenovo P2 mobile phone only got 73.8 megabits a second on the download and 72.1 on the upload on the first run, then 73 on the download and 110 on the upload, and then on the third run 82.5 on the download and 85.8 on the upload with the Zyxel. Okay, so we're now on to the Genexus DRG7820. And let's see what speed we get. This is again down onto the Asus laptop with the terrible Realtek wireless card. Oh wow, we're getting the stunning speed of 9 megabits per second with an upload of 30-ish. This is kind of what I expected. I've been incredibly unimpressed with the Genexus's Wi-Fi performance, and yeah, okay, we're managing. I don't know, I thought we were going to manage 30 megabit there on the download, but no. So we're not really getting anywhere above about 30 on the Genexus on Wi-Fi. Not good. Next one will be the iPad Pro on the Genexus. Okay, we're now onto the iPad Pro with the Genexus DRG. And similar to the laptop, we're getting a little bit more, 40 megabits per second on the download. So this iPad Pro is in exactly the same place as when I tested the Zyxel Router, and the router is in exactly the same place as where the Zyxel Router was as well. So we're getting 40 megabit max on the download, 25.5 on the upload. Let's run a couple more speed tests just to make sure that it really is the limit. Yep, I think that's about the lot on that one. And then moving on to the Lenovo P2 mobile phone with the Genexus DRG router. The first speed test run came in at an abysmal 2.69 megabits per second download and 6.87 on the upload, but a second speed test went to the heady heights of 18.4 megabits per second on the download and 10.8 on the upload. Okay, on we move to the TP-Link AC1200 Archer C50. The only change I've made on this one is, by default, the 2.4 GHz and the 5 GHz Wi-Fi have different names, so I've renamed the 5 GHz one to be the same name as the 2.4 GHz. So on this one we are back onto the laptop, the Asus laptop with the Realtek network card. We're now at about 40 megabits per second download. And 70 megabits per second upload. Let's do a couple more tests just to make sure that that's the max that we're going to get. So there we go, 70 megabit down, nearly 80, so 78.5 upload. We're now onto the iPad Pro with the TP-Link Archer router. And quite a suspiciously awful speed test. So 6 megabit down and 0.25 up. That is really awful. I'll turn Wi-Fi off and back on just to see whether it makes any difference. Slightly better, but still really awful. I'm surprised about that given the huge aerials on that device. So 20 megabit down and nearly 5 or 6 megabit upload speed. Let's run a couple more tests just to make sure that it wasn't bad luck. That is dreadful. Once again, what I think this shows is compatibility problems between chipsets and aerial designs on different devices. Moving on to the Lenovo P2, connected to the TP-Link Archer C50 router, it got 11.5 megabits a second down and 30.4 megabits a second upload. Okay, we move on to the Vodafone THG3000 router, which I'm now doing a test on the Asus laptop when it decides to give me an IP address on my network. So this is the Realtek network card one again, so yeah, wouldn't expect anything amazing out of it. So 52 megabits down and nearly 45, so 44 megabits basically on the upload. Let's try that a couple more times. And suddenly a lot slower at 20 megabits. But still the same upload at 46-ish. and back up to the fast speed. Well, I say fast speed. It's kind of between the two, between the first one and that last one. It's 37.8 down. And an upload speed that doesn't even want to start. And about 14 megabit upload. Okay, moving on to the iPad Pro with the Vodafone Rooter. Not quite as stunning as the result from the Zyxel router, but it's still pretty good. 126 megabit down and nearly 100 up. So the thing that's quite stunning with Wi-Fi is actually just how variable things are. You can see with some of these tests I've been running, you suddenly get half the speed, you run the test again, immediately you get the full speed that you were used to. With this one we had more than 100 megabits on the upload, and I've just run a test again, we've only got 70. If I run it again we might get 100 again. It's worth noting that I did manage to get a 180 megabits a second out of the Vodafone Rooter. So moving on to the Lenovo P2 mobile phone with the Vodafone Rooter, the first test came in at just about 10 megabits per second down and 40 up. Second test was very similar, and the third test went up to 22 megabits down and 30 megabits upload, and the subsequent tests were somewhere between those two. Anyway, there you have it. Those are the 4 routers that I wanted to test. I got better than expected speeds from the Zyxel router, and as expected speeds from the Genexus, which I know has pretty awful Wi-Fi. And the unusual one to me was the Archer, the TP-Link Archer router, which I'd expected to produce a far better and certainly more consistent result across all the devices, but certainly some of the devices really suffered. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has, it would be really helpful to me if you wouldn't mind subscribing to my YouTube channel. You don't need to have the notifications switched on, but the subscriber numbers really do help.